Hey there, fellow trekkers. I'm Linda, your park ranger, here to introduce today's adventure. You might hear me in the background as we navigate the trail together. Today, we're setting off on an intermediate hike to explore Canva's whiteboard feature. You can use Canva to create posters, presentations, graphics, and more. But you can also use it as an interactive whiteboard to foster collaboration and critical thinking in your classroom. Goodbye, Jamboard. Hello, Canva Whiteboards. As you explore, you can keep following the Canva Trail or blaze a new one. We've mapped out beginner, intermediate, and advanced trails for every level of EdTech hiker, covering a range of powerful classroom technology tools. Can't spot the next landmark on your journey? Check back soon. We're always adding new trails to explore. Even better, subscribe so you never miss a new path to discovery. Lace up your boots. It's time to hit the trail. All right, with no further ado, I think let's go ahead and get into it. So today is all about using whiteboards with Canva. I don't know if any of you used Jamboard in the past. If you've used Jamboard, maybe put like a thumbs up or yeah, I've used Jamboard in the chat because, of course, rest in peace, Jamboard went away. It is no longer going to be supported. But a great alternative to Jamboard is something like whiteboards with Canva. So using Canva as a whiteboard, you can do something very similar to Jamboard. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. My name is Linda DeYoung. I'm the Online Learning Program Manager for the LTC, and I'm going to be your trail guide today, leading you through the different steps of making a whiteboard. And by the end of today's workshop, you're going to leave with a mind map that you can use in your classroom right away and pretty much customized to what you might need it for, whether it's your content area or your grade band. But today you'll be leaving with that mind map already made in Canva, or at least a pretty good start to it. So today's agenda first is that we are going to get into Canva whiteboards and do a little bit of playing first. I want everyone to be able to experience what it's like from the student perspective being in Canva whiteboards. Secondly is I'm going to teach you kind of the tricks of the trade, how to navigate the whiteboard, how to use it, how to build a whiteboard. Third is going to be how to share it with your students, how to set your sharing permissions, different applications that you can use to share your whiteboards. And then finally, some strategies to manage chaos because, of course, whenever you're using a collaborative tool, it can get kind of chaotic with a lot of students in at the same time. So we're going to talk about some strategies to get ourselves through that chaos and make that a little bit better for us as the teacher. We're going to go ahead and dig right in. So we're going to start with a blank whiteboard. However, in the future, I would really recommend exploring the template side of whiteboards, which I can show you where that is. But for today, we're just going to start with a blank one so that you can really get in and start to make your own and figure out how it all works. So let's go ahead and navigate over to Canva. And you're going to just start on the Canva homepage, canva.com. And like I said, if you don't have an account for educators, you're going to want to go ahead and set up a Canva for Educators account. You're just going to navigate to the home and you're going to click on this button here that says Create New Whiteboard. Create New Whiteboard. In the future, you can go to Templates, which is on the left-hand side, and you can search for thousands of whiteboard templates. So you could put in right here, they have Browse by Category. You could click Whiteboards and you could look at all their templates. But for today, we are just going to make a blank whiteboard template. So I'm going to click Create New. And this is what it looks like. It is just dots on a screen. It is nothing. Notice that it is pretty much an infinite space. As you scroll in and out, This is so huge. You can put so much on these whiteboards. I would recommend when you're starting out and for your students, you keep it pretty small. And so I usually put mine at 100% for my Zoom, and I just start building at 100% so that I can make sure it looks okay for my students. But in the future, you can zoom way out and have a ton of stuff on one whiteboard, and it's pretty cool. All right, so let's go back to our Zoom real quick here. I'm going to go over a few shortcuts that are going to make it really easy for us to build in Canva Whiteboards. These shortcuts are going to be key for just getting it done very quickly with what you need. So the first is that to create a rectangle or to create a circle, you can use the R button and the C button. So when you click the R button, and you don't have to do like Control R or Command R, you can just do R and it will create a rectangle. Same thing with a circle. You can just do the C and it'll create a circle. And then of course from there you can change the colors, the fonts, the border, all that stuff. Same thing with a line. If you want to create a line, you just click the L button on your keyboard and it'll create a line. And then from there, you can change it into an arrow, a dotted line, a dashed line, etc. You can even connect the line between two separate elements like a rectangle and another rectangle. And then finally, S is to add a sticky note. Your students are going to use this a lot probably to add sticky notes with their ideas. So even teaching them to just use the letter S to make a sticky note is a great way to do that. Or you can always have them manually add a sticky note, which I'll show you how to do as well. But let's keep that in mind. R, C, L, and S. So if I say, I'm clicking R, that means I'm making a rectangle. If I say I'm clicking L, that means I'm making a line. Today, we're going to make a mind map. And so I did themes in Romeo and Juliet, and I split these into the theme of youth, the theme of parentage, the theme of death, and the theme of love. And then from the sides, I had some different elements come in. So for example, for youth, I said, I want some ideas and I want some quotes. So I want my students to generate ideas about the theme of youth, and I want them to create some quotes for me. Then for love and parentage, I gave them some categories. So I said, I want you to talk about unrequited love. I want you to talk about familial love, about romantic love. Same thing with parentage. I want you to talk about the Capulets, the Montagues, the nurse, Friar Lawrence. How are these different guardians of these kids, taking care of them or not taking care of them throughout the play? So this is how I set mine up, but I want you to think about a mind map that you regularly do with your students. Maybe it's on theme, maybe it's on concepts, maybe it's on different, parts of an organism, whatever your kind of mind map idea. It's going to adapt perfectly to what we're doing today. All right, we're going to spend quite a bit of time in Canva at this point, so I'm going to go over to that Canva whiteboard that I created before, and I encourage you to do the same. All right, so the first thing I need to do is create the circle in the middle to explain what the mind map's going to be about. So I'm going to click C, and it's going to automatically create a circle for me. And then from there, I'm going to type, and I'm going to do the same that I did before, themes in Romeo and Juliet, but you would do your own. So whatever your mind map is going to be about, that's what you're going to type in. Then from there, I can change the color of the circle by going up here to the color button. And if I don't like this kind of like dark blue, I could change it to a light blue. I could change it to a red, whatever I'm feeling. I could also put a border on this. So maybe I'll do that. I'll add in like a 5-point border and I want it to be thick. Or I could do dashed or I could do dotted. It's whatever you want. I can also change the color of that border right next to there by clicking on border color. And I'm just going to put in a border. If I highlight all of the font in the circle, I can change the font type. So maybe I like this, handwriting font that pops up right away. I can change the size. I can change the color of the font. Right now it's white. So you can see it's pretty customizable with that toolbar on the top, right? You can change the color, the border style. You can change the font color, the font size. The next thing I'm going to do is create 4 more circles to go around it to start breaking down into my themes. So I can easily do this by just clicking the C button 4 times. So I'm going to go 1, 2, I have to click away from each one, but I'm going to click away, make another one, click away, make another one, click away, make another one. So from there, I have 4 circles. Now on my original, they were kind of like pill shaped, so I'm just going to make them into ovals for myself to give them a little bit of a difference. So just gonna make them ovals. And then from there, I'll type in my themes. So my themes were love, death, parentage, and love. Oh, and what was my other one? Youth. There we go. And then maybe I want to make each of those a different color story. So maybe I'll make youth blue, I'll make parentage green, I'll make death black, and I'll make love like this purple color. But again, you can make it any color that you like. It can be any amalgamation of colors and borders and fonts. I think I'm going to make these fonts a little bolder just so that they're easier to see for my students. And then, of course, I want to arrange these to be on the sides of my circle, just like you would a normal mind map. Beautiful. It looks great. Next is going to be adding our lines because, of course, we want the themes to be coming off of the main bubble. So I want to like have a line going to each one. And so I'm going to click the L button 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And from there, I can drag it and kind of, I'll hover over the right-hand side of it to pull it to snap to the top of my circle. I'll do that one more time so you can see it. So you are going to hold the right-hand side, which has like a little grabber on it, and you're going to pop it all the way to the top of the circle, and it's going to snap there for you. You do the same thing to snap it to the oval, and you'll do that for each of your lines. Just snap them in between the 2 shapes. What that does is it makes them linked. So even if you move, you can see, even if I move the middle oval, it's still going to keep everything linked together so that they don't become unrelated. They're always going to move with each other. So even if I'm like, okay, this needs to come down a little bit because it's not straight, I can still do that and it's going to follow that line no matter where I am. All right, let's keep going then if we're feeling good. So like I said, I'm going to show you how to change the line styles. So when I'm on the line, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the line, and then at the top, it's going to give me the line color. So I can click on that. I can change the color. So if I want them all to be like the red, because it's coming from the red middle circle on mine, I can change all the colors there. And then the next is the line style, which is like those 3 lines stacked on top of each other. That's what the icon looks like. If I click on that, I can do dashed lines. I can do dotted lines. I can change the line weight. So if I don't like how thick it is, I can make it thinner, or I can make it even thicker. Like if I want them to be like really, really thick, I can change it there too. I can also do rounded endpoints, which is kind of, it's interesting. It just takes the squareness out of the end of the line and makes them round. I find that they often don't matter in whiteboards, but if you like how they look better, you can always change them. And then finally is going to be your line start, your line end, and your line type. So that's the next 3 icons in a row there. So the line start is going to be where the line starts. Do you want it to be an arrow? Do you want it to be a circle? Do you want it to be a square? So if you click on one of those, you can see it turned this one for me into an arrow. And I like that, right? Like it's going from this to this. It kind of gives a direction. And so I'm going to change all of my line starts to arrows. And yours might be backwards, like some of your lines might, you're like, oh, the line start is actually the line end, and then you just go in and you do it for the opposite. It just depends on which way the line was drawn initially. And so you just play with those two until you get the arrows that you want, the line endings and starts that you want. And we'll go into line type in just a minute because I'm going to teach you how to do some different line types when we branch out one more out. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go the next circle out of the mind map. We're going to do the perimeter. And to do that, I'm going to do rectangles to practice doing rectangles, but you can keep going with circles if you want. So I'm going to start with parentage. And for parentage, if you remember, I had 4 boxes. It said Capulets, Montagues, Nurse, and Friar Lawrence. So I'm going to build that again for myself, but you can build out as many as you want. Maybe you only have 3, maybe you only have 2, maybe this one has none, but you just build it out, whatever works for you. So I'm going to click R for a rectangle, and I'm going to click out, click R again, click out, click R again, click out, and click R again. Then I'm going to type in each of them Capulets, Montagues, Nurse, and Friar Lawrence. Since this is still in the theme of parentage, I'm going to make mine like a lighter green color so that my students would know, oh, this is still related to parentage. So it's like right in that family. So I'm just going to make that a lighter green. And from there, I'm going to make my rectangles into, smaller rectangles so that they can live kind of right next to each other in a row. So I'm going to put like Capulets at the top, Montagues below that, and then I'll put Friar Lawrence and the Nurse below that. So I have kind of all of them like next to each other like this. Fun fact, if you want to move multiple things at once, you can hold down Shift, and then click whatever else you need to move. So I've clicked 4 boxes here, and then I can move them all at the same time. Little pro tip for you. So again, if you want to move multiple things at once, click one thing, hold down the Shift button, and then just click whatever you need to move. For those of you who are brave souls, of course, you can still change the color, the border style. You can also round the corners. So if you want them to be like little pill shapes instead of rectangles or just have rounded corners, you can do that. So I'm going to do that by clicking corner rounding, which is the icon that looks kind of like a rounded corner. All right. From here, I want to have some lines going to each of these, and we're going to do some different line types now. So just like before, I'm going to click L 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And maybe I want to change all of these to green. So I'm going to do that trick I told you about before where you click Shift. You click one thing and then you hold Shift and you click the other things. I'm going to click all 4 lines. I'm going to click on line color and I'm going to make them all green. And ta-da, they're all green now. So again, click on one line, hold Shift, click on the rest of the lines, and then you can change all the colors at once. From there, I need to snap each of my lines into the other boxes. So I'm going to snap from parentage to Capulets. I'm going to snap from parentage to Montagues. I'm going to snap from Friar Lawrence to parentage. And I'm going to snap from parentage to Nurse. So what it's going to look like is all of your lines are going to be converging right at one point on parentage, and then they're going to be going to these. But the good news is that then if you need to move these, which I am a little bit, they will stay with them. So the lines will stay with the boxes as you move it. And then from there, we're going to play with line type. So I'm going to click on one of my lines. I'm going to click line type. And right now it's on straight, but I want it to be elbowed because I want to give it some like interest, right? It's going to be like, ooh, cool. So I'm going to click elbowed. And when I click elbowed, you'll notice that it makes it into an elbow shape. So it's like a curvy Q instead of a straight line. From there, you can move the elbow back and forward, or you can move it kind of up and down and add new elbows as needed. But I'm going to make every single one of mine elbowed. And when I do that, notice how they kind of all like go into each other, like they all kind of become one like vine that kind of wraps to the other boxes. And I love how that looks. So if you also love how that looks, it's a great little trick and tip to make some elbowed lines for you. I'm going to go ahead and show you just a couple more things before we move on to sharing and making sure that we're managing some of that chaos getting students in here. So the first thing I want to show is our poll. So creating a poll, you're going to go to the Elements tab on the left-hand side. And notice that on the Elements tab, you have sticky notes already highlighted right here for you. So if your students are struggling to like click the S button and find their sticky note and add their sticky note and it's just chaos, they can always come over to Elements here and just grab a sticky note. But let's go down to polls. So if you scroll down, you'll notice you have your rectangle, your lines, your circles there. So again, I would use the shortcuts, but you have all those there. You have some graphics, which you can have your students add reactions that way. But here's where the polls live. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in a poll. And this one is ask a survey question. So the one that I'm going to ask is, who is at fault? And the way that I'm going to change the questions on my survey is to click this little edit button at the top. So when I have my poll highlighted, there's an edit button at the top toolbar. I click that, and here is where I type my survey question. So who is most at fault? And I'm going to put, is it their parents? Is it their town, their community? Is it themselves? And of course, this all related to Romeo and Juliet. And I'm actually just going to delete the third option or the fourth option. I don't need it, but you can always add more options, change the options. And then when you type all that in, that's what populates in the poll and your students can vote on it. Even you can vote on it. So if I click themselves, it shows up as 100% voted on that option, and I can unclick that and re-click again if I want. So this is just a survey. It changes in real time. So you could ask your students like a poll there too. All right, let's go ahead and get into some sharing. So of course, now that we have a mind map made, the question is, how do I share it with my students? How can I use this as a collaborative whiteboard? And there are a few things I'm going to share with you on safe ways to share this, different ways to share it, whether your students have an account or they don't. And yeah, we'll just go over kind of all the basics of that. So I'm going to go back to my Zoom here. And we're going to start with this hot tip. If there is anything to take away from this sharing section, it is this: make copies of your original. Do not give your students your original copy, because just like when you guys got into my whiteboard earlier, you start moving stuff around and you start playing in it and you're like, oh, everything got all messy. Do not share your original. I would recommend making a copy for every class period. So if you teach like freshmen, second and third period, make a copy for your second period, make a copy for your third period, and grab a separate link for each. That way it is specific to that period of students. It's their work, it's their collaborative work, and you can go in and look at each of them and not have to worry about, you know, one class sharing with another class and then your original is all messed up. Always make a copy. And again, I recommend for each class period. You don't need to do this if you're sharing it as a template, and I'll show you what that means in just a moment. So there are a few ways whiteboards can be shared. The first is if students have Canva accounts, which maybe your school has students that have Canva accounts because you are their teacher and they have an account underneath you as their teacher. If that's the case, first, I always say check with your tech department for SOPA compliance. So make sure that they have a SOPA agreement on file so that it is safe for your students to have accounts through Canva. If you check with them and they have a SOPA compliance, then yep, it's okay for your students to have accounts. The next thing that you can do is create a shareable link with editing access and provide it to your students for group collaboration. So as long as they have an account, they're going to log into their student account with Canva, and you're going to provide them a shareable link. I'm going to show you how to do that right here. So if I wanted to share this, and this meaning a copy, I'm not going to share my original, but if this is my copy, I click on share. And then where it says only you can access, I'm going to change it to anyone with the link can edit. Now you could change this to view if you want your students to just look at it. But if you really want them to be able to edit it, add sticky notes, add reactions, add stickers, you're going to want to give them editing access. Then from there, you're going to want to copy the link. And you're going to want to post that somewhere where they can view it, either on Classroom or on your other LMS or on the board with a shortened link. However you normally share with your students, that is how you're going to share the link. The next one is to make it an assignment on Classroom and to make a template for each student. Now, if you do this option, it will create a template for each individual student, meaning that it won't be collaborative at that point. It won't be everyone on, which is chaotic, but everyone on together, talking to each other, making sticky notes, leaving reactions, this will just be a student's individual work. However, that's also a great option sometimes if you want to just see what a student knows all by themselves on a specific thing like themes in Romeo and Juliet. So to do that, you would come back here to share. And instead of making it anyone with the link can edit option, you would go down to Google Classroom and you could click Google Classroom. You would click continue to link your classrooms together. And then you would share it to your class. And you can either, create a material, make an announcement. I usually create a material. You click go. And then this will give each student their own template. So if I click on this link right here, it's going to say, this is a template created by Linda DeYoung, and it's going to share with you, start designing now. And then you click edit template or use template for new design. But I would tell your students to click edit template. From there, they can edit their own template. So this will be owned by them and be individual work. You can also just provide the link to the template by clicking share and clicking see all, and then from there you can grab a template link. So if you don't have like Google Classroom, you have a different LMS, you can grab a template link here and that will do the same thing. You just provide this link to your students. The other option is if students don't have Canva accounts. So if your students do not have their own Canva accounts, they will not be able to add sticky notes, reactions, stickers, anything like that. So the best thing that I would do at this point is to project it on your board and to add ideas as the teacher. So have like a collaborative discussion and, talk with your students and add sticky notes yourself and add things onto it. But it provides at least then the framework or like the structure for that, that you've set up yourself in Canva. Note that students can still view it on their devices anonymously, so you can still provide them the link to view it, but they will not be able to edit it. So if you want them to like follow along on their devices while you put it on the screen, you could have them do that. However, they can still answer polls and they can still add comments. So if they, see something on there that they want to comment on, they can click the comment button, they can add comments, and they can still answer polls, but they can't do anything else. So I would recommend if you can have your students use it with a Canva account, that is the preferable way, but there's still some cool stuff you can do if your students don't have their own Canva accounts. A couple quick tips for interactive panels. So even if you're doing it individually or not individually, if you're doing it with Canva accounts or without Canva accounts, I would still project it so that the students can see what their peers are doing in real time. And it's also helpful if you have a second device, if you want to participate as well. It can be helpful just to have your own device where you're kind of like adding stuff to it, but the board really acts as the projector for everyone to see what's going on the Canva whiteboard. Notice that some panels have the Canva app available to download. So if your panel has the Canva app as an application option, that might be a great way to add Canva whiteboards into your routine because the interfacing will be a little bit better if you have the app. And then also, I just want to mention, not to alarm anyone, but your panel might already have like a whiteboard function that's built into it. However, just note that your Canva designs are saved forever on Canva. Even if your district decides at some point to stop supporting the whiteboard function on your panels, because sometimes it's a separate app that they have to pay for. So even if you lose access to the whiteboard function on your interactive panel, Canva designs never go away. They're always going to be there for you. And you can transfer ownership of your Canva designs if you switch districts or if you switch jobs. You can always transfer your designs over to a new user. And so that's just something to think about when you're making Canva designs is they never go away. They're going to be yours forever. So just a little peace of mind there. All right. So the last bit is just managing chaos. We know that when we get students all together, they can do some kind of shisty things. And so I'm going to show you a couple ways to manage the chaos of having a bunch of students on. The first is to set norms. And I know that it's always like, oh yeah, setting norms, but it's really important that the first time that you use whiteboards, I would do it as a whole class activity and I would model how it works. So maybe you as the teacher are the only one who has access to the whiteboard and you're adding in things for the students and you're showing them how it's done and you're showing how to appropriately use the device. Then I would think about maybe assigning it as a template next so that each student can get familiar with it individually. So maybe the next assignment that you do is just one where each student does their own whiteboard. That way, if someone adds a sticky note and there's like 500 people adding sticky notes in and it's like, there's so many sticky notes, the students aren't feeling overwhelmed. They can get familiar with adding their own sticky notes, adding their own lines, adding their own stickers and reactions with just their own whiteboard before you get into the large setting. And then, of course, before giving free rein to a collaborative group, just have a conversation with them about etiquette. So let them suggest norms. I promise you that they will come up with things that are perfectly acceptable. They'll probably say things like, don't delete someone else's sticky note. Good job. Yes, don't do that. Don't write something inappropriate. Right. That's a good one. So just talk with them about how to use the tool in a way that's acceptable. Let's go ahead and talk about a couple practical things you can do as well. So the first is to learn how to lock. We'll go over that in just a minute. The second is to pair up. So having 2 students to 1 device, less people equals less chaos. So have 2 students huddle together in front of 1 laptop and play with a whiteboard together instead of each student having their own, where you have 30 students all in 1 whiteboard. That cuts it in half. So now you only have 15 students in 1 whiteboard. So that's a lot less chaotic. Monitor, project your whiteboard in real time. Tell them that you're going to look at it, tell them that you're going to watch it, and hold those students accountable. And then finally, there is a way to follow students. So I'm going to show you that as well right now, and then that'll pretty much be our time. So the first is going to be how to lock. I'm going to have you go to the whiteboard that you just created. Now, you can lock elements. This doesn't mean that the students can't unlock them. They can. But it's going to save you a lot of heartache because many of them won't know how to lock or unlock. So to lock something, you can either just highlight everything by clicking and dragging, just highlight everything you've created so far. Or you can click on things individually. And when you click on everything, there will be a toolbar at the top and there will be a little padlock and it'll say lock. And you're going to click lock. Now, there are 2 options for locking. One is that you lock it completely, or if you click it again, it'll be, for mine, it's unlocking everything. But if you click on something individually, you can also give it the option to lock it with only editing access on. So that'll be like a lock with a pencil going in it. And that means that the position is locked, but I could still type something different in the box. So it just depends on what you want. If you want students to be able to edit what's in the box but not move the box itself, you're going to want to click the lock with a pencil icon. If you don't want them to move anything, you're just going to highlight everything and click lock. And that means that they can't move anything. They can't touch it. They can't move it around. So that's really useful. If they know how to unlock it, they will be able to unlock it. But I would guarantee that many of them don't. So that's a great way to monitor that. The second is to follow students. So I'm going to go back to that Canva whiteboard that we were playing around with before. And it looks like there's still someone who's kind of hanging out with me here. And when I click on them, I can follow them. So I will make sure that your name is blurred out in the recording. But if I can click this little follow button. And what that'll do is it will literally show me only that person and where they're going. So if you have a student who's maybe kind of being shysty, you can follow that student and see exactly what they're doing. And then, of course, have a conversation with them if they are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Okay. You can also kick people out of your Canva whiteboard if you need to, but I don't think you'll have to. You can just have conversations with students on their own. Otherwise, that's all I got for you. I hope that you guys enjoy the collaboration, the creativity, just being able to make some really cool stuff in whiteboards. And again, I hope you have a really good night. Thanks for joining. We'll see you on the next hike.